So I think we're ready to go. So a warm IRC welcome, Carl. Thanks a million for doing this for us. It's only our second one, so bear with me a little bit. We had McCoy on last time, and I looked at his amazing backdrop. He's got about 1 million trophies. He's got his Spotty Award and everything. And when I watched the video back, I noticed I got my daughter's science folder in the background of mine. So well, I'm working on that. So we try and do these in a sort of, just a, comfortable way. I'll run through a few of the races, today's, what's coming up the rest of the week. And then I think Neil wants to ask you a few more questions about the actual Grand National at the end, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah.
So did you get to see any of it today?
I just seen a couple of races actually. I was out playing golf, so I missed a lot of it.
Where was you playing? Anywhere nice?
Just up the road from me, Naunton Downs. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I seen the big chase and the big hurdle, I seen the mare's bumper and the red rum chase. So I missed the first couple.
Just we were just talking about that then. I thought the favourite ran a bit of a poor race and we put it up today.
What, in the bumper?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aline Dower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fancied her strongly. I thought she'd been so impressive this season. She was fantastic at Market Raisin, and I think the second horse, the thing of managers that she beat went back to Ireland and won impressively, didn't it? So no, I thought she'd win today, but she was disappointing.
Yeah, she was. Do you think Rachel just nicks a lot of these races off the front at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, she didn't nick this really. I mean, she was obviously in front early in it, but the others just couldn't get to her. I think it did come from a fair way back, to be fair, the favourite, or tried to.
Yeah.
But what she did at Cheltenham better than most is, I mean, she's no, stronger than the best guys, and she's as good at an obstacle as most of the top guys. But what she did at Cheltenham, which stood out, was her judgment of pace. That's what she got right, more than most. When it was a slow pace, she was always pretty handy or prominent or change her mind. As in the bumper at Cheltenham, when they went very slow, which they don't normally do at Cheltenham. She quickly changed her position and got near the front. And she did that throughout the week, yeah.
It does strike me. She makes fewer mistakes than anyone else I've ever seen, I think. I barely see her make a bad decision.
No, she basically all the decisions are good at the moment. When there was strong pace, she was happy to, no matter how big the race is, she's happy to drop in a bit further back when she thinks they're going too fast.
Yeah.
And she's got confidence, and if you're riding for the right trainer as well, who will let you do what you want, and the plan beforehand might to be handy, but if they go fast and you end up being 15th, you're not worried that the trainer's thinking, what are you doing there? You've got confidence in the trainer that he's got confidence in your ability to be in the position that you're comfortable at, and that's what she did very well at Cheltenham. Was her judgment of pace was fantastic.
Yeah. Do you just think of some of them Cheltenham winners? Do you think it takes a really good horse to win at Cheltenham and then come and win at this Aintree Festival?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It strikes me as very different races, different pace. Not as brutal, but a lot more speed involved. Is that on the money, or? Yeah,
it is really, and it was soft ground at Cheltenham this year, and it wasn't that long ago. Ideally, the top horses, if you want to get them at their peak for 2 races, you'd want 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks between races. So every year this comes up at a lot shorter than that. It varies by week sometimes, but it's very tight. Getting horses back to their best between Cheltenham and Aintree, and it's a faster track. The ground's a lot quicker, so it'd take a very, very good horse to win at both meetings this year, with considering the different conditions as well. We've had no proper rain now for weeks, so it makes a big difference.
Do you think we'll get? Do you think we'll see more horses that skip the festival to try and win at that Aintree meeting?
Not really, no. For some reason, people just even if they've, got very little chance at Cheltenham, they want to go there.
Yeah.
And I think more horses should skip Cheltenham to be safe for Aintree, but they don't. People seem to, they always think Cheltenham is the place, and I don't agree. I think if you go there with a great chance, of course, but the ones who are got very little chance because the ground's wrong or the track's wrong or whatever, they shouldn't be going there. They should be waiting for Aintree in places. There's no point in going there and finishing 8th. You have such a hard race there. Wherever you finish, you have a hard race normally. So I just can't see that. But people they're obsessed with Cheltenham. They just think it's so special. And personally, I don't think it's special to go there and finish 14th.
No, that's a fair point. Anything you're looking forward to the rest of the week?
Well, it all hinges around the big race. That's the one race that I love more than any other race in the calendar. And so the other races are obviously important in their own right and this sort of thing. But the National is such a special big race that's what even on the day, the other races, although they're big races, they're most of the people are just getting them over with in a way, just to get to the National. That is the one.
Do you know what? I could ask you a million questions about the National, but I'll probably wait till later on. Otherwise, Neil will kill me. Do you? I just went through Nigel's runners for the rest of the week. He's got a few tomorrow and a few on Saturday as well. Anything? There, any chance? Stolen Silver?
He's been disappointing the last few runs for no reason. We haven't found out a reason. So no reason why he should improve really.
Okay.
It'd be a surprise if he went and won anyway.
And then I've got Top of the Cotswolds and then Earl of the Cotswolds on Saturday, first race. Either of those guys?
Yeah, they've done all right in their own class. Earl of the Cots was disappointed a bit last time. They're up against it really. We've got Super 6 in the bumper on Saturday, who ran a nice race in the bumper at Cheltenham actually, and he was one that they went very slow and he pulled hard and he was trapped in behind a load and he actually ran a lovely race in the end. He's a fine big horse and he will be a really nice horse for the future. So he's one you definitely want to make a note of. Super 6. He's a real big, lovely big horse, a great horse, and I think he could be very nice. Actually, our best chance of the whole meeting, believe it or not, is Bristol de Mai in the last one. I'm really looking forward to seeing him run. I think he could run great. Yeah.
Ground all right?
Yeah, his best form has been on soft ground, but he's finished second at Cheltenham Festival on better ground. And I don't think the ground he's not ground dependent. He on this ground over this trip, he'll be fine. He's a very good mover. And so if you watched him at home, you'd think that he wants good ground because that's how good a mover he is. He does, as we know, handles very heavy ground. But over this trip on this ground, I think he'll be fine. And also the ground being better, it'll be easier for him to carry 11-10. I'm not worried about the ground. I think his cruising speed over this trip he'll hopefully be in second or third gear for most of the way.
Yeah, it's a class.
Can I ask a question there, Scott?
Yeah.
Just about, he's quite high up in the official ratings, isn't he, Bristol de Mai? What I wanted to get a perception of is that, and you can tell us better than any of us, Carl, is how the course has changed. I'm in your age group. I was born I'm a 65 boy, so 1965. So I remember when to ride these fences, you were taking your life in your hands. It's reported now that Aintree isn't what it used to be. So my one question that I wanted to ask you was, in your own words, how has the fences changed and how, in inverted commas, easier is it for a horse and a jockey to negotiate Aintree as we now know it? And in the context of Bristol de Mai, with him carrying 11 stone 10, is it easier for him now to carry weight to victory?
the answer to that is yes. Much easier to carry big weight now. I was born the same year as you, actually, exactly. So,
I'm in June. I saw you were in July.
oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they've changed so much, the fences, and there's nothing worse than ex-jockeys saying that they were bigger in my day. But this is just a fact, that they were stakes in the hammered into the ground, and they were 5 or 6 inches in diameter, and they were solid up to over 4 foot, and then the birch was laid on top of those, and it was packed in very tight. And if you took off the top 10 or 12 inches and you hit the stakes underneath, it would take a lot to stand up. You had to jump them cleanly and clear them, so it was a much more effort to jump the fences. And if you made mistakes, you're a proper mistake, you'd never get away with it, really, in them days, because of modern times we live in, and health and safety, and trying to make the race as safe as possible. Well, you make it as safe as possible, you take the fence away, but to make it still a spectacle, but without so many fallers. I mean, there's a lot more horses getting round now than ever. You look at the fox hunters today, and there's so many getting round. I mean, like the chair today, I think they all go over it, and they all jumped it well. Whereas before, it used to be going back to what you said earlier. The challenge before was to get round, and to complete the course was a massive achievement. And you used to come in, and you'd ask the other lads how they got on, and if they said, "Oh, I pulled up halfway, or 3/4, or canal turn, or I got round," you'd say, "Well done." That was a massive achievement as a jockey to have got round the national course, because of the fence was so difficult. These days, they ask people, "Where'd you finish?" Yeah. And it's more of a surprise if someone says, "Oh, I fell," or "I pulled up," than actually saying, "Well, I finished 8th, I finished 12th, or 18th." And so it's now much more like an ordinary race, just a staying chase. And I walked around it last year with some young jockeys, and one of the later fences, they hadn't put the birch back on from the day before. They hadn't dressed it, as they call it. And it's just a normal plastic fence, the same height as any other fences. And then they just lay it with a thin covering of spruce. And I showed the lads as we were walking around this, it was about 6 foot, which they hadn't actually started yet. And they couldn't believe how small it was. I said, "This is the height you've got to jump. Once you get over the height of a normal fence, you can drag the spruce with you. Your front legs or your back legs can drag the spruce with you and take it off the top, because it's not fixed on at all. It's just laid on, packed in a little bit. But that's all they have to do, is jump the size of an ordinary plastic fence, which is, to me, it's a shame, because I'm a traditionalist and all that sort of thing, and I liked it as a totally different test to what we race on all year round, and that's why it was such a unique race. But I'm afraid now it's lost that, and that is why someone like Tiger Roll, and you'd never know whether he could have got round anyway, because he's a great jumper, but whether a horse like him, as small as him, could have won his races over the old fences, because he'd have been losing a lot more energy to clear them, and so whether that we'll never know. It's a shame he didn't go this year, but you're definitely getting different winners now to what you would have done when they were a much bigger test, and horses had to be very, very good jumpers to get round, and that really isn't. Any horse is a good jumper around any track now can generally get round there.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive answer, and I think one that I'm glad you answered, because I'm a traditionalist as well, and it reminds us, Scott, of they don't make them like they used to. I just want to say that I did my homework with Carl. I know he's Welsh, so I wore some Welsh red, and then you'll just see the that for those that are wondering who these are, that's Party Politics in 1992, and this is your other winner, of course, Earth Summit in 1998. So I've got the two of you there.
Very pleased. Yeah, what I'm amazed about this, it's in colour, which is good. Most of them are black and white.
Yeah.
So go on.
I was just to say two completely different horses. One was very small and and neat, and the other one was massive. You know, it was a very tall, lanky. I mean, on human terms, Earth Summit would have been sort of 5'4", and Paddy Politics would have been 6'4". You know, they were completely different. One was short and stocky, and the other one was tall and slim, sort of thing. But it shows all types can do it.
And while Scott's wondering where we go, I just want to say something. I did a bit of research on Earth Summit. Was owned, and I suspect you know him. You must know him. He was the owner, Ricky George, who Carl played football at Hereford. And the first person I phoned this afternoon was Terry Payne, who won the 1966 World Cup. He's a very good friend of mine, Terry. And I phoned him. I said, "Do you remember Ricky George?" And he said, "Well, he arrived at Hereford, I think 2-3 years after Ricky scored the famous goal. I think it was against Newcastle. But he said he was a legend of those parts. I think by the time Terry got there, he was, you know, he'd finished with his Southampton career, so he was almost a player-manager role at Hereford. But he remembered Ricky George, who I think it was him and a couple of owners owned the horse. Is that right, Carl?
Yeah, there was 5 of them. All come from different backgrounds, and I got to know Ricky quite well. You know, obviously through connected with the horse. And yeah, great fella, and so well known for that goal.
Yeah.
Everywhere, you know, when we meet, people still knew him and remembered it and wanted to talk about it. And however many years later it was, probably 30, I should think. But it's a good story. 5 of them owned him, and they paid just over £1,000 each for their 5th share. One of them, maybe Nigel Payne, had a horse before, but the others hadn't really been involved. And Mike was involved, was from Liverpool, and yeah, this is most of them's first horse. So a hell of a story to pay that sort of money. And I mean, he won the Scottish National, the Welsh National, and the English National. So he was a hell of a horse for them. And when he came back to win the National, he'd actually had a very bad injury, probably 18 months before, and was, you know, maybe unlikely to run again. It was sort of touch and go, but he came back to win that. So it was an amazing story, really, made nicer by the fact that it was 5 very, don't take this wrongly, ordinary blokes, you know. They were just normal working guys who were all very nice, and it was just great for them sort of people to have this sort of success. And they appreciated it so much, and they were lovely people. It's a good story for me anyway.
Absolutely. So I remember the Earth Summit race vividly, because me and my mate popped down to the local bookmakers, and I'd backed Sunny Bay and he'd backed Earth Summit. And before I go any further, I think Aoife's got a little bit of video, if you don't mind watching it for the 7 millionth time, Carl.
Yeah, okay, love to.
Aoife, is that all right?
They're going fast.
We do have sound sometimes, but not on this occasion.
Gonna pay extra for that.
Well, he showed McCoy make a stand when we did it last week, and he literally did the commentary himself. I nearly turned it off.
Well, I could commentate on this. Earth Summit's leading Sunny Bay. That's about it. There obviously wasn't many finishes, was there? By the look of it, there's only about 4 others standing, I think.
I was going to say, was there only about 6? The funny thing is, I'd back Sunny Bay. Was that Graham Bradley, right? And when I look back and think, am I right in saying that Earth Summit was probably the only horse to win the Welsh and the Scottish National as well?
Yeah, I think he's the only one to win all 3.
Yeah. So
yeah,
off of 12 stone, Sunny Bay had no chance 4 out, did it? I looked at the pair. I watched it again the other day. The pair of you must have looked round, or Bradley looked round about 10 times. Is that just because the pair of you knew you had it between you?
Yeah, I mean, he did speak to me on the bend and said that to tell us how clever we were. But I actually think it's one of the all-time best national performances from Sunny Bay. I think he had 11:10, and to carry 11:10 in that ground and finish as close as he did to Earth Summit, who was a heavy ground specialist with 10:5, I think he had, or 10:7. I don't think Sunny Bay got the recognition he deserved, because without Earth Summit in the race, he'd have won the national by 30 lengths on heavy ground with 11:10. Can you imagine that for a story? I mean, he was a hell of a horse. And touching back, we're talking about pace earlier with Rachel Batmore, and if you watch the replay, the first circuit, we were virtually up sides at the back. I was on the wide outside, he was on the inside for the whole circuit, and we basically tracked each other. We were probably about 30th at the 40th, whatever it was, at least for all the first circuit, because we both thought they were going too quick on that ground. And we were, I was convinced that it didn't take a lot of working out, but that there wouldn't be many finishes because the ground was so deep. And convinced that if you got round, you'd have a chance of being definitely in the money, because I think there'd be so few finishers. It rained on the Friday all day at Aintree, and it was horrible. And then it rained that night. We were out in Liverpool. Myself and Nigel were out in Liverpool that night, and we were walking back through the rain, hammering it down at about 1 a.m, and we were just loving it, enjoying walking through the rain, because we thought that this will just help our horse so much the next day. And he just handled heavy ground so easily. It was so comfortable for him on that ground that it was just going to inconvenience so many of the other horses. There's not that many horses can handle it when it's that deep. And it was obviously a very good performance, but Sunny Bay to carry that weight in that ground was an amazing performance. And, I think he deserved more credit, but there you go. Yeah, they only give it to the winners.
Absolutely right. He won. He didn't win the Hennessy the year before, Sunny Bay.
Yeah, he did. I think Dean Gallagher rode him and won the Hennessy on him, I think. Yeah, it was either the year before or the year before that. Yeah, so he was a very, very good horse. Yeah, Charlie Brooks trained him, didn't he? Yeah.
Was that
I don't actually know what he did, but he did much after
that. Carl, was that the year after the infamous bomb threat, that there wasn't a Grand National the previous year?
No, the bomb threat was 93, wasn't it?
I don't know. I thought you had one of your winners.
Oh,
and I
no, sorry.
Politics is year.
Yeah, the false start was 93, was it?
I don't know.
No, really.
I mean, what I was going to ask you is your two experiences. I suppose it's irrelevant when it was, but I mean, the Grand Nationals had so much incredible history. Not all of it on the course. I mean, some of it, the drama of the full start, and the drama of the bomb threat and so forth. And I just wondered your experiences or your memories from those particular years of just the frustration, I guess, particularly of not being able to race.
Yeah, well, the false start was the worst for me. Paddy Politics was in better form going into the following year for the false start than he was when he won. Wow. And I've always said this. He was tubed a year later. You remember when they used to tube horses?
Yeah.
With horses with breathing problems, and he'd won the Greenhalgh's Whitley Grand National Trial at Haydock in a snowstorm the run before in February, and he won it very, very easily. And the year he won it, he was actually making a gurgling noise when they can't get their breath and they're not breathing properly. The year he won it. And so the following year, with this tube in his throat, he was a better horse. And so when I pulled up after a circuit of the false start, I was running away. I mean, I was going so easily, much easier than I was the year he won it after a circuit. And so I was convinced, and I'm not a, overconfident person. I was convinced I'd have won that year, the following year, which is a shame for the horse and for my balance and things. Yeah, I mean, I pulled up and I was absolutely gutted because he was running away. And it was, the start was an absolute mess, wasn't it? But it was a girl called Judy Davis who was riding, and it was her who got her head over the horse's. Sorry, her horse got its head over the tape on the outside, and so the outside lot, 10 or 12 of them didn't start or whatever it was, and the rest of us didn't know anything about it for a circuit and got waved down after the water jump, with the circuit to go. But that was one of the worst days for me, knowing that the horse was in much better. And he was one of those horses jumping wise. You can never say, oh, well, you've actually got a circuit to go, so there's so much to go wrong. So you can never say you're going to win. But he was such a good jumper. He was so clever that, he would have had to been really, really unlucky for him to fall, because his footwork was just amazing. For a big horse, he had fantastic footwork, and he had so much scope and was so clever over a big fence. So I never had any worries about the fences with him. So that was a bad day. And then the bomb scare was sort of strange. You can't believe it's happening, but we were ordered to leave the weighing room in our clothes, in our riding clothes, and get out on the course. We stood out there for, and it must have been an hour or so, and then we eventually got told to leave the whole race course, and we load of us jockeys were wandering around the streets. And I remember a family took me in to their house, a couple of us, and it gave me some jeans to put over my white breeches and a jacket. And it was only just around the back of near the Melling Road. It was just one of those streets off the Melling Road. And anyway, I was riding a horse that year called Camelot Knight. And anyway, I said to them, if the race is run on the Monday, or if it's run again, I said, back him each way. I said, because he's got a chance this Camelot Knight. And anyway, amazingly, he was third at 100 to 1. So, and
Nice.
I don't know how, but it was out on something, Twitter or one of these things. It came out in the last year or so that they'd met me, and I told them to back it, and they were thankful that I told them. And that was only in the last year, So however many years ago that was, 90, so 20 odd years ago anyway. And they sort of finally thanked me publicly, which is quite funny. But so we went into Aintree with our riding boots on and silks, and I had a pair of jeans on top, and went out that night. And we had nowhere to stay. See, we'd all checked out of our hotels on a Saturday morning, because you don't normally stay Saturday night. So we couldn't get back to our cars, so we couldn't go anywhere. We weren't allowed back on the course to get our cars out. So to cut a long story short, 12 of us stayed in the one room in the Adelphi. Paul Carberry wasn't going home that night. He was staying for another night and then flying home the next morning. So he had a single bed in the Adelphi, in a single room, and 12 of us stayed in that room that night. So it was we obviously didn't get there till late, but for the few hours we were there, it was fairly uncomfortable. But 12 of us stayed. I remember it really well. My memory's bad, but I can remember that very well. Yeah, so it was a good experience, or an interesting experience anyway. Yeah.
Superb. Were there any, it's funny because I've got a couple of questions here. You've just messed John and Mark's questions up, which was the best weight carrying one, and what was the one that got away. So I'll cross them out. Any others that you thought you had a chance on, Carl?
Yeah, definitely. Bo.
God, I remember that.
Yeah, Red Marauder and Smarty, them two finished and two more remounted, didn't they? But the time we went away from the stands last time, I think it was only about 2, 3. I think it was about 5, 6, 7 of us going, and
I bet that would have won, I think, wouldn't it?
Oh God, he was running away, and it's stupid, yeah, because many years ago they used to say about having on big horses having extra long range the Grand National, because you see the old pictures from many years ago, the jockey sitting well back over the big fences, and they'd be virtually horizontal. So you have an extra big reins, and he was a very big horse with a very long neck and a big head, and I just had standard reins on him. We jumped the first, second time round, and I think there's maybe 3 of us left going at that point, maybe 5, I don't know. And he nodded and his head hit the ground, and I ran out of reins. So the reins got snatched out of my hands and went over his head. So I gathered them up on the left side. So I had 2 reins on one side, and he was running away, going so easily. And anyway, as the race turned out, I'm sure he'd have won because them 2 were hacking in front, weren't they? So I jumped 2 more fences with the reins one side, and each time trying to hook the reins back over his head in between fences. So as soon as I landed, I was leaning down and trying to scoop one rein back over his head to get to have one rein either side. And as I was doing it, he was getting keener and keener. And so by the time I got to the 4th fence, he was so lit up and pulling so much that he eventually got too keen and hit the next very hard, and I came off. There's only 3 of us standing at the time, so I'm absolutely still gutted. I still thought I'd have won that race because he was by far the best horse, and he was absolutely loving the race and loving the conditions. So and had a lovely weight, so it was a big shame.
No.
See you, mate.
Say night.
Say goodbye to somebody here. Good night. See you later. So that was probably nearly as gutting as the false start, because he was a hell of a horse on his day, and he won the Whitbread by a distance. So he was a very strong stayer and a very, very good jumper. That was a.
What fence did he go at, Carl?
He went at the I think he went at the ditch second time, down the side straight towards Beeches. He went at the middle ditch down there.
Right.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of them fences. I noticed that whenever I've been unlucky, I know AP rode a couple that did the same thing. It's almost as you're coming around on that second circuit, I can't think what the fence is, but you're actually you're actually sort of jumping out to the right, even though the course is naturally moving round to the left. And it just seems a hell of a, a horse has got to have so much scope to be jumping almost right-handed to come round wide and actually clear the fences, especially them fences that were big back then. Is that the case? Or?
Yeah, I mean, hold on 1 second.
There you are.
No, I'll ring you back. I'm just doing a Zoom call, mate. I'll ring you back. Cheers. Bye-bye. I mean, Beeches, you see, if you jump Beeches straight and keep going straight, you'll go straight into the rail. That's at a fair angle, that's at 45 degrees, and the next one is as well. And then the canal turn is a 90-degree turn. And so you need to be going in at an angle. Yeah. You don't want to go straight, you lose a lot of ground. And you'll also, if you kept going, you've got to go straight on. So it's a bit more tricky, really. All them 3 fences, you obviously turn completely round on yourself. Yeah. You always wanted the Beeches to go out into the middle a little bit and cut away left and try and save ground and not be stuck out on the outside. Otherwise, more horses on you in there for the next 2 because everyone's trying to angle out and go left. So they're the trickiest 3 fences to ride, probably. Plenty can go wrong there,
Yeah, absolutely.
And you used to have crowd all the way down from the first, all the way on the outside of the course, all the way around Beeches, canal turn. There used to be thousands of people there, so you were sort of jumping into the crowd, into a massive noise, and so it was a hell of an atmosphere going around because there was noise all the way around, which unfortunately there isn't now, which is another shame. Yeah,
absolutely. Did horses back then present themselves as national horses and then you run them in the national, whereas now it almost strikes me that you almost have to plot some of these national horses a couple of years in advance and it's sort of all or nothing national, whereas back then a lot of them horses seem to have just been stayers that came out of sort of staying races, and I suppose it was a natural progression onto the national, whereas now you don't get that so much, do you?
No, I think the biggest thing is horses, they would only enter for the national if they were very good jumpers. And anything that wasn't a good jumper, wasn't really a really good jumper, it wouldn't even be considered the race, no matter how good they were. The obviously the odd one was, but they didn't get very far.
No.
That they were, proper old stayers that could. Emphasis on stamina so much more when you've got to jump, when it's harder to jump. When it's stiffer fences and bigger, you need a lot. You use a lot more energy jumping bigger fences, and now you can have a much classier horse in the race, really.
Yeah.
Because it's less dangerous and there's less to go wrong, isn't there? I mean, you had the fences were all across the course before, so you couldn't, loose ones had nowhere to go. Now they've got, probably 20 feet outside each fence, 20, 30 feet outside each fence that the loose ones can run off and get out of the way of the race. With Paul, they did.
Because of that, do you think we'll ever get a 7-year-old winning the race? I think there's a 7-year-old this year, isn't there, that's fancied? But I mean, it seems to me, because of the profile of the race, I mean, traditionally you're looking at a horse between the ages of 8 and 11, but that seems to be changing a little bit because of the change in the fences and the speed of the races run. Yeah,
I can easily say. I mean, you've got French horses now running over fences as 3 and 4-year-olds. So, they're much more. There's a lot more of them about, isn't there? And good horses from France are bought for big money, and so, they've been running over fences for 3 or 4 years. The same as years ago, the horses wouldn't start till they were 7 going over fences. So, the equivalent of being 10, 11-year-olds. So they've got 3 or 4 years experience of jumping fences. And also because of it's not such a test in that respect that they don't need to be such hard, thorough stayers now as they used to be. So yeah, I wouldn't not fancy a horse because he's 7 anyway, as long as he's got the experience behind him. It's miles on the clock, isn't it, of jumping the fences or jumping fences. Definitely the French horses have got that,
Yeah, because I don't know if Scott likes it, but Secret Reprieve, who is an outside winner, I mean, he's the 7-year-old, isn't he, coming into the race, Scott? I don't think a 7-year-old's done it forever in a day, but he's certainly in a rich vein of form.
Yeah, and price-wise, here's tipped him a guy called Tom Seagal, who he's one of probably the best tipster I see in the local, in our racing posts and online and the kind of stuff that I'll pay attention to. So if he thinks it's got a chance, then it probably does have a chance. But I get quite heavily involved in Cheltenham from a betting perspective, but I never tend to do so well at Aintree. Did all right today. I backed Abracadabra and a couple of others. But I do find it. I have had the winners over the years, Rough Quest, Papillon. But I tend to sit back and watch it like anyone else, and have a couple of tenors here and there. I don't get too heavily involved, to be honest. Just because every time I look, I have a horse in mind that I think can win it, and then when I start looking through the field, there's about another 8 or 9 that I really fancy, and in the end, I end up thinking I can't even win if one of them wins. So I'll probably go in the suite with the kids and have a match bet with Joe or something. But I'm sure it can.
I'll give you a quick brief history of my Grand Nationals. I mean, I think my first decent win was on West Tip, Richard Dunwoody, I think. But prior to that, and I've already said that Carl and I are of a similar age, so he'll remember this. He would have been 10, so was I. I think it was 10, or maybe younger, actually, 8. But it was when Red Rum had his first win, and my mother, God bless her soul, was adamant that I'd turn into a sick punter because at the age of 8 or 9, I was having 5p each way on horses. In the long run, she turned out to be a good judge because look how I've wound up. But I had 5p each way on Crisp. And I don't know why. I think it was Richard Pittman and it was the Australian chaser. And recently, actually, I was really blessed to direct message Richard, actually, because he's on Twitter. And I told him the story and I said, you know, I cried. Apparently, I don't remember it myself, but my mother said I cried for weeks. And I had a whole bunch of birthdays that I was supposed to go to, and I just sulked in my room because it was, of course, like I was going to get 5p each way until he just wandered off course. And yeah, Dick Pittman and I were sharing some stories over direct messaging. So that was my start. I was on crisp when Red Rum had his first of 3 wins in the race. So
did he carry 12 stone, did he? Did Chris carry 12 stone?
It was a huge weight, yeah. Something like that.
See, he gave he gave Red Rum a hell of a lot of weight, didn't he? So,
huge.
Yeah, it was a hell of a performance.
Yeah, and I think he lost his concentration, though. He'd been out in front so long. He was literally, I don't know if Scott remembers it, but I think it was a whole fence in front. But he just...
I've seen the videos. I'm just I'm probably, I can't remember what my first, Seagram might have been the first one I kind of had a bet on.
David Barron's, Nigel Hawke, yeah,
they were the sponsors. And I worked at a company called Cazenove, and Brian Burrow worked there, who owned Corbière.
Corbière, yeah.
That's right. And I've, funny enough, Johnny Gorge just started doing our newsletters, and he wrote an article about that being his first winner, and he got the bug for the national after backing that. And I thought, hang on a minute, I've heard that story. And I was only probably 7 or 8 at the time, but I joined the firm that he worked at, and then 10 years later I heard all the stories about how he'd won the Grand National and everyone in the firm had backed it and whatever. And
was Brian Burrow not, I think, was he not the youngest owner of the Grand National winner? Was he not 26 or something when he owned it?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
But quite an achievement, yeah. I think Rough Quest was one of my favourites as well, because I backed it at Cheltenham, and I think Imperial Calls Gold Cup year, maybe it was. And I always thought, you know what, this is a really good horse, but it's never going to go past anything late on. And I think, was it Fitzgerald that rode it in the National? Harry got that to win. I still don't quite know. I think that's probably one of the best rides I've seen. You'll tell me different, Carl, but
no, I actually agree with you, because what was so good about it, he was so cool, you know, to keep hanging on to him for so long in a race like that. A lot of good jockeys wouldn't have been able to hang on that long. You know, the urge to go to the front, but he was so cool, and you know, under the circumstances, it was a very, very good ride. Yeah, to hang on to him like that.
Did he have the big fences then? Was that big fences day?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So that was quite a performance.
I think it was. I think 2014 they were definitely still there. I think so, that's 6 years ago. So, or 7 years ago. So I don't know when they changed, but they were the proper fences then anyway. Yeah. So I don't know when they've modified them, as they say.
While we're talking about old winners, the other, you know, I've been very fortunate in my profession to get to meet a lot of interesting people, and you know, that if you had come to me as a kid and said, I mean, this would include you, Carl, I must say, if somebody had come to me after party politics and said, you're going to be in a webinar with Carl Llewellyn in 2021, I would have called them mad. It's a great privilege to be chatting to you. But on that experience, I mentioned Terry Payne earlier on, and Terry had horses trained by Toby Balding. So when we went back to the UK a couple of times when Southampton were involved in the FA Cup final, we went down and met up with Toby and Ian Balding and the old Balding plan. But they, of course, won probably before our time, Highland Wedding. They had a win in 60. But Little Polvier, I remember, that would have been your era, I guess, Carl, in 1989, Little Polvier.
Yeah, Jimmy Frost, yeah. No, I mean, Balding was a great chaser. Well, he was a good trainer, but a very good trainer of chasers, wasn't he? Had a lot of big winners. Jimmy Frost, wasn't it? Bryony's dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. He had horses. I mean, Beach Road, Morley Street. He was a good trainer. Lovely man, I must say. Lovely character. I mean, he was knocking on a bit then, but they were huge Southampton supporters, of course, back in the day. Hence, they thought Terry was the bee's knees, and we were thinking they were the bee's knees. So it was a couple of good men, I must say.
Yeah.
So what's going to win on the weekend, Scott? Because you've been billed to me. They told me, Joe told me, whatever Scott says and whatever Carl says, I must back.
Whatever Carl says, he'll have. I'll look today. I wanted to back the Storyteller, so that gives you an idea. That got scratched, so that's already made my mind up. One of the bookmakers today is giving you half your money back in the UK, so it suddenly dawned on me that the favourite was probably a bet, because if I'm going to get double the odds, if they're going to give half my money back, then about 9-1. It's hard to pick holes in what that cloth cap's done so far. Kimberlite, I could see that being placed, but I don't think it'll win. I'm just not confident enough, so I think I'm probably gonna take up the offer of having half my money back and then just having it back on the favourite and getting 8 or 9-1 the favourite. That just seems, there's nothing clever in that. Against anything else, I think that's probably where my couple of quid will end up anyway.
Well, why? I mean, they tell me he's very well handicapped, Carl. Is that right? I mean, he's 14.
Yeah.
14 points better in than he should have been.
Yeah, he's 14 pounds better in since the weights come out. If they were redone now, he'd have a stone more.
Sure. Well, that's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why he's short price favourite. He is an out stay. He's a very good jumper. He's been in very good form this season. Obviously, winning the two big races. The last two he's won. Winning the Hennessy, as it was known. And he's a very correct jumper, and that would be way too short for the old national sort of thing. But these days, I think he's a very worthy favourite, and a stone in is how you want them, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want to be backing someone, you've got that. That means that if he performs to his new mark, then something else has got to improve a stone at least to beat him. So with a clear run round and a fair amount of luck, he should win. You don't really get that in the nationals, but this one is a standout. Talking about Secret Reprieve, I mean, he won in an absolute bog at Chepstow, as it always is on Welsh National Day, and most of his form is on that sort of ground. Don't know enough about him to know if he'll go on better ground. So that could be a difference for him, His jumping's okay, but I wouldn't say it's as good as cloth caps. So there's a couple of question marks against him, for me. So I wouldn't be getting involved with him. And I think, as you mentioned, Kimberlite Candy, I'd be keen on him as well to run a good race. I think he's shown good enough form around there to go well. But if cloth cap stands up and he's normal amount of luck, he should win. That's they don't normally have them as well in as this in the national, and so he is a bit of a standout.
He is a standout, but the strange thing about it, I don't know if Scott's the same as me. I feel it's a bit of a cop-out going for the favourite. I mean, maybe I want to try and get too clever, but he looks too obvious. I grew up as we all did on, favourites just never won the Grand National. Now we got a 9-2. Well, it was 7-2. I think he's gone to 9-2. It's almost too easy, Scott. I don't want to. I prefer a bit of a challenge. I'd rather come and tell everybody I backed a 40-1 winner than a 7-2 winner.
I do agree with you, but you know what? I end up backing about 10 of these rags every year, and they're gone after about 3 fences, and I just keep having to tell myself that I might as well just have more money on one of the fancied ones. I'm not averse to backing a big price, but I don't think there's any point looking for something that isn't there after time. And with a lot of these horses, they're seasoned campaigners, and there's no real reason why I think they should improve enough to be better than what that horse is. And so, yeah, anything could happen, and they could end up with 4 standing again. But that doesn't seem to happen in the national anymore, does it? You used to get 2 or 3 come around the top, and then you'd have 2 go up the elbow, and 1 running on from somewhere, and one of them 3 won it. Whereas now they're almost all hiding behind each other, coming around the bend, waiting to see who's got what left. So, I can't be betting, hoping something's going to happen out of the ordinary. I'm not even a massive fan of Cloth Cap because it keeps beating my horses. Didn't it beat? Because I was a big fan of the Conditional, which won me a lot of money at last year's festival, but unfortunately he's not with us anymore. I'm sure that was behind Cloth Cap, wasn't it, in the Hennessy?
Yeah.
So there's every reason to think it can win, because I know that was a good animal. But I'm sure there are some big prize. What have you got for us, Neil? You must have found one then.
Yeah, well, the other horse that's well in, which is £5 well in, is this other horse that I've got to find out. There's such a big field. I've got to make sure Lord de Mesnil, which is at least 33 to 1. I don't know what if Carl can tell us anything about him.
He's trained by Richard Hobson, who's just up the road from me here. Doesn't have many horses, but he does very well with them. And he's got some very good form. He doesn't run his horses a lot, but when he runs them, they they do very well. And he's been around a while to watch the horse, and he's a very good jumper. He's a strong stayer. He's a clever jumper, but he's also very, very brave as well. So he should suit the race. So yeah, I wouldn't be against him at all. He's probably, because he's not trained by one of the most fashionable trainers and not one of the big guys, he's probably a bigger price than he should be. But I wouldn't rule him out, No, he'd be one that normally in the race you can knock out 20, who cannot win. They're just not, they're not going to be good enough. There won't be enough hard luck stories for someone to win. But he's definitely one of the ones that could be there or thereabouts. Yeah.
Nick Schofield's riding it. Has he ridden a Grand National winner? Probably
no.
not.
No, I don't think he has. No. He's a good rider. He's been out a long time. He got injured quite badly. He came back just before Cheltenham, I think it was, that sort of time. He was out for quite a few months. He was one of Nichols's main jockeys till a couple of years ago, and he was sort of second jockey until Harry Cobden came along and Sam moved on. So no, he's a good, solid rider.
Capable.
Yeah. I'm just aware of the time. We've got about 3 minutes to go before the hour. I'd like to float one in. I'll make it a one-horse race. Okay. And that one horse is Magic of Light. Trained by Jessica Harrington. It's run behind Tiger Roll 2 years back. It ran a great race at Cheltenham. And it looks to me like they planned to come back a year or 2 years later. Thoughts? Anyone?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put you off, Joe. My feeling. I'm thinking horse racing, don't matter what the race is. People that are unlucky in a race or have run close say, do you know what? We'll mind this horse and we'll come back and we'll have another go. And I think that's sometimes the best weapon you can have. Even if horses have won a 2-bob race a year ago, they're often say, even if they've got very little ability, we can come back and try and win that again. So I think once a horse has done something, Joe, it's got every chance of doing it again.
He's run 2 3/4 lengths of Tiger Roll in 2019, this horse.
Yeah, it was good
form.
Yeah.
It is good form. Robbie Power rides, great jockey. Yeah. There's a few, Disco Rama, you wouldn't rule him out either. There's a few with very good form, but we are in, it's quite unique to have a stone in.
Yeah,
we haven't had one a stone in for a long time, I don't think.
The other stat, and I must be honest, I went through a process of elimination, and I didn't really eliminate Magic of Light at all, so I wouldn't put Joe off backing it. But I did notice a stat that 9 of the last 10 winners were running in it for the first time. Now, that tells me quite a lot about the younger horses and horses that are targeted for this race. And with that horse being £14 in the favourite, but as we said, there's no great value. So Joe's probably much better off with Magic of Light, which I think is 20 to 1, eh, Joe?
No, it's shortened. Big money for it.
Yeah, but that's because of your money.
Yeah, in the last couple of minutes, it's shortened, is it?
Exactly.
Okay, guys, almost time to wrap up. Just a quickie. Carl, I didn't know you played golf, so I'll send you an invitation to one of our golf days. And if you
Oh,
ever
yeah,
want to come on
great.
a trip to South Africa, we have some great golf courses out there.
Lovely.
And some great hosts. Scott's met some of them, and Neil is one of them.
Real good.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. I'm going to leave it, me personally, with Magic of Light. Neil, Scott, and then Carl can finish.
Okay, I'll go then. I'm actually going to go for value-wise, although I think Cloth Cap's going to be hard to beat, but I'm going to try and beat it with Manila Times. And one of the reasons, Henry de Bromfeld had a great Cheltenham, and Rachel Blackmore had a great Cheltenham, and with Carl saying what a good judge of pace she is, I just thought I'm looking for 11, 12 to 1 shots. So Manila Times, I'm going for Rachel Blackmore, who can't do anything wrong at the moment to win the national. Cool,
Scotty.
Okay. So over to me. One quick question, if you don't mind, Carl. I did hear, did Stato really win £1 million when party politics won the Grand National and the Conservatives won the election? And he must have given you a fiver if he did.
No, he didn't. No, didn't get it. I don't know if he did, but I didn't get anything of it anyway.
Oh well. So I think, well, Cloth Cap, and I'll have a saver on Joe's one. And that'll be my lot. I won a few quid at Cheltenham, so they're not going to have it back this week. Please come to one of them events, Carl. Come to the we've got one at Bearwood Lakes that's really good fun. There's a few.
All right. That's a great course.
Yeah, great course. Yeah.
That is
And if you ever want to get round Wentworth, just give me a call.
Okay, great. Yeah. I love them both. But Bearwood Lakes is a fantastic place, isn't it? Love it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, June time, I think. Joe will sort that out for you. Listen, for me, thanks so much. It's just great to get an insight into someone who's gone around that place. Scares the hell out of me. I don't even think I'd want to walk around there, let alone try and jump around there. But it's much appreciated, Carl. And
pleasure.
I'm sure everyone's thoroughly enjoyed, like, just having a completely different insight into it all and stuff. So thanks a million. Hopefully see you on the golf course.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thank you. All the best.
Cheers, guys.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.